I'm always amazed, quite frankly, by the naivety of this discourse. You just do not go and gather minerals on the ground or from underground and instantly become rich. The question I always ask is this: if in real fact Rwanda does not have the technical capacity to exploit our own mineral resources, how can we take advantage of those in DRC? A country like many others in Africa that have not fully utilized these resources for decades for their own advancement. These issues are far more complex and lead to entirely different questions. In reality, these accusations have always been a diversion from the truth. No one should be under the illusion that Rwanda's modest developmental achievements since 1994 are based on such illegal exploitation of the resources of another country. We are steadily improving the lives of our people because Rwanda is making all the effort to build a nation of laws and institutions that promote security, peace, reconciliation, and development. We are painstakingly building the confidence of domestic and foreign investors to put their money into our hotels, energy projects, agriculture, the construction industry, and ICT on the basis of transparent governance and predictability. We wish to work with successful nations and build productive capacities to fit into the global competition, not anything less. These objectives can only become further enhanced by a stable, peaceful, and a more integrated sub-region, as opposed to one where criminal gangs with genocide ideologies roam our neighborhoods, pillaging and destroying communities, and killing or raping women and children. In the year 2002, the United Nations asked Rwanda to withdraw its forces from the DRC and said that they would assume the responsibility of disarming and dealing with the negative forces. We knew it was not going to be done, and it was not. The United Nations set up MONUC, a peacekeeping mission of 17,000 soldiers that have been in the DRC for seven years at a very high cost without corresponding results. The genocidal forces continued to operate, destabilizing both the host country, DRC, and Rwanda. This situation has now changed fundamentally because Rwanda and DRC both now recognize that we must work together to find answers to this, our problem. When Rwanda and the DRC undertook a joint military operation against the negative forces earlier this year, some skeptics once again expressed the fear that things were going to get worse and that there was going to be a humanitarian catastrophe. This could not have been further from the truth. The results were there to speak for themselves. In the brief period of the joint operations, we seriously weakened the command and control structure of these negative forces. Nearly 1,000 combatants and over 5,000 civilians were repatriated to Rwanda. Most significantly, confidence at leadership and citizen levels at the successful Congolese and Rwandan collaboration has drastically increased. Following the achievements of the joint operations with our counterparts in the DRC, MONUC has also joined the Congolese armed forces to continue or supported and to continue the fight against the destructive forces in eastern DRC. On the political and the diplomatic front, we have now exchanged ambassadors with the DRC, paving the way for further efforts in the more important realms of economic growth and development, including joint projects in energy, environment, trade, and investment. We realize that there is still a lot of work to be done, and we can continue to count on the international community, but this time around with a serious focus on dealing with the root causes of the problem in the sub-region. There is no doubt that things can change for the better in this regard if we continue with the right approach. We appreciate many global leaders, including the United Nations Secretary General, that have been highly supportive of these efforts. Let me conclude by restating that today's Africa is increasingly one that seeks its own solutions as well as different relationships with the international community, one based on mutual respect, trust, and a collaborative outlook. We acknowledge that our continent still faces considerable developmental challenges compounded by the ongoing global economic crisis. But our national, regional, and continental institutions are working diligently to find appropriate and responsible solutions for greater peace and security. Our sub-region and the African continent should remain focused on the bigger objective of socio-economic transformation, while paying attention to strategic and corrective measures required to preempt factors that undermine this vision and agenda. I'm most certain that we will continue to make progress in our quest for pushing the boundaries of peace, reconciliation, and development on our continent. I thank you very much for your kind attention.